years old.
Wow, you know about that.
You came up with your first album at 17 years old. You started a relationship with your choir master at 19 years old.
Wow.
By the time you realized you were infected with HIV,
Yeah.
all these sins in one life, in just your teens,
Yes.
and within a matter of 4 years, you had moved from a normal child to a raped child, a singer, and someone who had been infected with HIV at the same time. How did it happen?
My mother was in a different church, in the Church of Pentecost. At
Okay.
times we go to Church of Pentecost, at times we go to my stepfather's church.
Okay.
So this lady convinced me that if I want to be helped, then I have to become a full member of my stepfather's church. So I did. So when I did join the church, then she advised that I join the choir. So I became part of the choir, and I was so happy singing with them. And then somehow, I got involved with this man we are talking about now. The first time I saw him, I didn't like him.
Wow.
We went to church, and then I think he came late. So he came, he sat by me, and then he was like, "Can I have your number?" You know, we had this kind of Orthodox chairs that when you go, you could put your Bible, everything.
Oh, the church that you could put everything inside the chair.
So I had my mobile phone there, and then when I said no, he took my phone and then dialed his number. And when I turned and looked at him, he had gray hair all over. I said, "Look at this old man."
Old man. That was what was going through your mind.
I didn't like him. So he got my number, and then he dialed, and then I also got his, but I never called him. There was a day we had a funeral. The church choir had a funeral, and we were supposed to attend. And I couldn't pay everything I was supposed to pay. So his
once
sister,
again, financial.
His sister, that day, we were supposed to leave the church premises at 5 a.m. I got there, and then I was talking to the guy who was taking money. And I said, my money wasn't up to, but let's go and come, I'll pay back. He said, no, then I should go home. I was angry. So I was going back home. Wow. When the sister of this same man came and called me that, "Why are you going home? My brother has a car. So he's going with his car. So why don't you join him?" And I didn't even know that was his brother. To my surprise, the same man.
It was the same man.
And then,
so was that your second contact with
yes.
him, or he had tried to call you before this?
No, he never called. He never called. I also didn't call. So that was my second contact with him. So I sat in a car. We went to the funeral. He came. And then where I was supposed to drop, he said, "No problem, I'll drop you home." He came to drop me home, and someone has given you a lift. And he said, "So can I pick you for dinner or something? Can you just refuse?"
You can, but you didn't.
Sometimes.
Because you're a teenager, so it's fine.
So
you can actually do that. But
okay.
as a teenager, in the situation where you were and all that was going on,
so
that's what
even
happened.
though I didn't like him, I don't know how it happened.
You just started to like him.
So that day when he said, "Can I pick you for dinner?" and I said, "Okay." The following, we went for the funeral on Saturday. Sunday after church in the evening, he came without even calling me. And then he called and said, "I'm in front of your house. Come and let's go." So I said, okay. I went. He took me out. We had some nice time. We ate, but nothing happened. So he dropped me back. That was how it began. If at the time he took me home, I had read so much about HIV, I would have seen certain things. But at the time, I didn't know much. When he took me home that night, he first of all took off his shirt. And I realized he had this skin cancer all over his body. So I got scared. And that was the first thing I asked, "What is that?" And then he told me it's chickenpox.
Wow.
And we all know that when you have chickenpox, you don't get it twice.
It's contagious and you don't get it twice.
Yes, so I was thinking, if I had
it before.
So there's no way I can.
So it was like the scaly things on all over his body.
All over his body. So he quickly lied to me, and I also believed him. So that very day, he started struggling with me, this kind of thing. I said, "No, I can't have sex with you." So it was becoming too much, and I had to advise him to use a condom. So I told him, if you really want to, then you have to use a condom. And then he said he doesn't like it. But I insisted. So finally, he went and then brought out the condom. And then I thought he was putting it on. He put it on, not knowing before we started, he had removed it.
Wow.
Without telling me that he had removed it.
Wow.
All along, I was thinking it was on, not knowing it was out.
So you actually asked for a condom?
I did. 3 weeks after that first incident, I started throwing up. So I went, and that was my first pregnancy. I went to the hospital, and then they ran a test and then a scan, and that showed that I was 3 weeks gone. So quickly I told him, and then he also called me, come and take money and abort it. And I insisted, because my mother once told me we don't do abortion in our hometown. So because of that, I was always careful. He gave me money, and then I refused. I told him I'm going to keep it. And so from then I became his enemy, just because I decided.
He got angry?
He got very angry. He would come to church and see me with my big belly. He would not even say hello.
He just cut you off?
Just like that. And I also insisted that I was going to keep this baby. And then he once called me and told me that I'm a very stubborn girl. So if I keep on and I keep this pregnancy, I shouldn't blame him for the aftermath. I didn't understand him.
So he knew he had HIV?
He knew. When you are told you are HIV positive, it's like you've been given your death certificate. Go home with your death certificate. That is what happens. That is why many people don't want to get tested. Nobody will tell you that they got to know their status and it was so easy for them to accept it. But all I wanted to do was to save the baby inside me. So I did everything I was supposed to do, take my medication.
Told you they were going to give you medication and
I
stuff.
took, they said it's so good that I got to know 2 months, at least 2 months before delivery was good. So I was put on medication for 2 months.
So you were taking the antiretroviral drugs. Okay.
And then I was asked not to breastfeed.
Okay.
In addition to that, they told me they were going to, I was going to go through CS. So when the time was up, I had to go through CS.
How did people respond to all of this? Because whenever you talk about HIV, everybody focuses on stigma.
Yeah.
Did you actually have an experience?
A lot of experiences, and even as at now.
Wow.
Yes, and it's lack of knowledge, lack of education. That is what brings about all this. When people know much about it, I don't think people will stigmatize. But when I go on to other places and I give education, the feedback I get is that now we know that you cannot get it through touching you. You cannot get it even when we kiss you, even when we sleep on the same bed with you. But there is some sort of fear. It is psychological. So we have to go beyond teaching and letting people know that you cannot get it through touching. We have to do something more. Because how many years now? Stigma is still around.